We will now formally open this meeting of the Elginar Board Review for today, February the 16th, 2023. I want to begin with apologies for those who've been waiting since 1 p.m. We had an extended executive session this morning, so hopefully our review of the matters that we will hear today will go smoother. Well, we needed to have some time together as a board. So thank you for your patience, and we will hopefully be able to move through these cases today. The board will and the panelists will introduce themselves, after which we will then hear from the law department regarding any matters that are being continued, withdrawn, or otherwise resolved. Okay, thank you. I'm Kenneth Woodson, board chair.
Ralph Pincus, board member.
Roger S. Tennant, senior board member.
Ken Washington, board member.
Ryan McSherry, board counsel.
Richard Wade, board administrator.
Thank you very much. Okay, the law department, do you have someone speaking for you today regarding matters that will be continued, withdrawn, or otherwise resolved? We don't.
Board members, I don't believe we have a designated person because there's only a few collection of cases today.
Okay, well, let's do this then. We've discussed a process in executive session, so why don't we roll out our process then? Okay. Mr. Wade will read off the group of cases in two groups, and we will expect that if there's, well, Mr. Rulo, is there more than one attorney representing these various groups of wall cases? You're muted, Mr. Rulo.
Yes, I believe that there are three of us here today that are have cases.
Okay, so what we will do then is that we will read off group one and then ask the attorney who's representing the first in rank order cases to speak up, and we'll talk about the approach to that. And then we hear from each attorney representing each subgroup of cases. Okay. All right, Mr. Wade.
That's correct, Mr. Woodson. I can read the groups, but Miss Anthony does have her only matter is an agreement to read into the record. I believe if we could dismiss
Oh, sure.
her.
Absolutely.
Okay.
She's special. We can hear from her.
I appreciate that, Chairman Woodson.
Okay, have a good afternoon.
Okay. Case number one, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000460, 1306-8 North 6th Street, CFS Capital.
That is correct, Chairman Woodson, and counsel for the appellant is also here, Mr. Jared Klein. And this
Good afternoon,
matter.
Mr. Chair, yes.
Good afternoon. Actually, let's allow Mr. Klein to put his name on the record.
Certainly. It's Jared Klein, Klein, from Blank Rome, on behalf of the property owner.
Thank you.
And Chairman Woodson, this matter is moot.
Okay, moot. All right, thank you. And
Thank
so
you.
there's an agreement among the parties, or it's just moot in general?
It is just,
Moot in general, because the water department has withdrawn the notice of defect that was at issue in the appeal.
Okay, all right,
That is
thank you very much. All right, thank you both. Have a
Thank
good
you.
afternoon.
you
all right,
also,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay. All righty. Actually, then, why don't we go to number 37 then, Mr. Wade? That's probably the easiest way to resolve that.
Okay. Case number 37, hearing appeal number HA 2022-001562, 1330 South Patton Street, a squared construction.
Okay, who's representing the city?
Good afternoon, Board, on behalf of the city.
Ms. Curley, good afternoon.
Yes, as to this matter, Board, the city has reached an agreement with the appellant. That copy was sent to the board, and I can read the terms into the record if you just give me 1 second.
Okay. Also, if you wouldn't mind adjusting your monitor a bit so that we can see your full image.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, it's not uploading for some reason. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry. So the parties have reached an agreement as to Philadelphia Code Section 9100.6. That violation that is listed on violation number CF 2022-017398, that violation is going to be withdrawn. The remainder of the violations are to be affirmed. The fine to be imposed for Philadelphia Code Section 9-1004 subsection C is reduced to $500. The remainder of the fines to be imposed remain the same. So the total fines to be imposed by this violation would be $2,500. And again, that agreement is in writing and has been signed by the appellant and sent to the board. So I would just ask for it to be city affirmed in compliance with the agreement.
Okay, thank you. Is there legal counsel representing the appellant in this on today's hearing?
No, there is not.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, then regarding 1320, just one moment, make sure I'm reading this correctly. Regarding 1330 South Patton Street, Squared Construction, HA-2022-001562, city affirmed per agreement between the parties.
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 Okay, thank you very much. I think that resolves that matter, correct, Ms. Curley?
Correct.
Okay, all righty, let's go back to the other matters.
Okay, I will read the first grouping of retaining wall cases, starting with case 3. Hearing appeal number HA 2023-00.
Excuse me, Mr. Wade,
Yes,
are we going to skip case 2?
I thought we were going to put the case 2, I believe is going to be heard. So I thought
Yeah,
we were
that's
going
gonna
to.
be a full hearing. We're gonna do these wall cases and get those out of the way before we hear the case 2, Mr. Washington.
Okay,
So case 3, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000021. 22 East Durham Street, Linda J. Salazar. Case 4, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000022. 24 East Dunham Street, Linda J. Salazar. Case 5, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000041. 26 East Durham Street, Eugene J. Thornton. Case 6, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000017. 28 East Durham Street, Zachary Van Heel. Case 7, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000039. 32 East Dunham Street,
That's
Diane-
Durham Street, Durham,
Durham
correct?
Street, Durham Street, apologies. Diane D. Duncan. Case 8, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000048. 36 East Durham Street, Tanya Y. Lambright. Case 9, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000042. 38 East Durham Street, Corinne R. McCoy. Case 10, hearing appeal number HA 2021-000072. 42 East Durham Street, Brian Van Lentine. Case 11, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000034. 48 East Durham Street, Mary Schofield. Case 12, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000033. 50 East Durham Street, Anthony Richardson. Case 13, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000019. 52 East Durham Street, Jonathan D. Cornide. Case 14, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000045. 54 East Durham Street, Alexandro Alvarez. Case 15, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000016. 56 East Durham Street, Leslie B. Gaines. 16, Hearing appeal number HA 2023-000020, 58 East Durham Street, James Hufford. Case 17, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000026, 60 East Durham Street, Janet Curtis. Case 18, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000029, 62 East Durham Street, Ilar Sinajah. Case 33, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000008, 25 East Mount Pleasant, Michael M. Kohler and Lauren McGuire. Case 34, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000011, 27 East Mount Pleasant Ave, Christopher Singler. Case 35, hearing appeal number HA 2023-000009, 41 East Mount Pleasant Ave, Mary Rachel Deepang Lawton. And that's it for the first group of retaining wall case.
Okay, thank you. Who in the law department is representing these cases? And as you come up on, if there's more than one attorney for this group, please identify yourself and which ones you're associated with so that we can kind of keep a little order.
Good afternoon, Chairman. This is Michael Rulo on behalf of the City of Philadelphia,
Yes.
RULO. And I am actually representing the city on all of the cases associated with this wall.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Rulo, there are a couple of matters within this group that we just want to attend to before we move forward. And actually, as it turns out, I think everything in this group is okay. Okay, I think we're okay. But I do want to know, is there a particular proposal that you have for us?
Excuse me. Yes, I think that if we can set this hearing out for perhaps 90 days to provide context, board members, there was one of these cases that was originally listed in November. In the course of preparing for that listing, I discovered that there were approximately 16 other appeals that were last heard in 2018, but for some reason were never rescheduled for a hearing. And so I contacted the board to reschedule those so we could do a consolidated hearing. However, a number of those properties were sold and we had to reissue notices of violation in the interim. I'm raising this because I would like this to be 90 days so that we can have all of those notices reissued, track to see if there are any additional appeals that have come in since then, so that we can ensure that whenever the next hearing occurs, we have all of them out here and we don't have to come back for a separate hearing. I know that since December, there has been at least one new appeal that was filed by a new owner that was not on the list for today.
Okay, already. I think that that's fine. So you're asking that we note that the matters we just listed would be continued for at least 90 days. I believe the administrator has a few dates as potentially established for it. Mr. Wade, do you want to share that now or do you want to wait, do that off record?
Well, before we proceed, I just want to ask a question of Mr. Rulo. Is it, from what you just stated, would it be my understanding that the intention is to reissue notices to all of the properties or just the ones where you are aware of changes?
Just the ones where ownership has changed. The other notices remain active and those appeals remain active. So there are, I believe, 2 or 3 at this point that the city is going to, those appeals are moot because the owners, the appellants no longer own those properties.
So you have to reissue. Okay.
So, and one of those has already been reissued and an appeal filed already by the new owner for 7110 Chew Avenue, for example. So that's part of the complexity here. And it's just a matter of the fact that these haven't been heard in 5 years.
I would note for the record that Chew Avenue was not part of the list of cases, but we do know from our discussions in executive session that that matter will be coming forward. So we'll group that in with list that we've just called. Before we establish a continuation date, I'd like to ask anyone present who is currently associated with any of the addresses we just named. If you are, just raise your hand, use the mouse to create a waved hand or raised hand. Okay, do we have anyone who's currently affiliated with any of the properties we've just listed on East Durham or on East Mount Pleasant? Okay, alrighty. So Mr. Rulo, Mr. Wade, do you want to set a date now, or do you want to just have that discussion off record?
It's whatever is easiest. I would think June 8th, June 22nd, or July 6th are all Thursdays.
The 26th works better for the board.
22nd.
22nd, okay.
I do think, and this is up to the council, that they would probably want both of these walls heard on the same day because they would have the same witness. Is that correct?
So the Mount Pleasant and the Durham cases.
No, I
concern-
understand. I mean,
Okay.
would Miss Curley want to have her, like, would you be using the same witness? Would you just want everything on the same, or is that not important?
You know, we obviously just want to defer to the board on this. We only have one overlapping witness. I think our surveyors are, we have an additional different witness, so whatever's
Okay.
easiest for the board.
So June 22nd works. I can have these cases continue with that date as of now.
Okay, so we will set June 22nd preliminarily, tentatively, because we haven't heard from any of the potential impacted owners of the other groups. I want to hear from them as well before we set their date. But for this East Durham Street and Mount Pleasant, June 22nd is the date we're shooting for. Okay, that's what record should reflect that.
Thank you. And that completes my business, board members. May I please be excused?
Yes, sir. Thank you for. Oh, actually, Mr. Rulo, before you leave, I'd like you to sit through this next group of cases just in case there's some connectivity here. We may need your response to that. Okay. All right, Mr. Wade, would you call the next group?
Okay, this next group begins at case number
Mr. Wade.
19, hearing appeal number HA 2021-005-664, 402 West Wellens, Donald Kohler. Case number 20, hearing appeal number HA 2021-005-437, 404 West Wellens, Sad Bobus. Case 21, hearing appeal number HA 2022-000331, 416 West Welland Street, Anchor Realty NE. Case 22, hearing appeal number HA 2021-005-741, 422 West Welland Street, Brenda Monroe. Case 23, hearing appeal number HA 2021-005-656, 428 West Welland Street, Matthew King. Case 24, hearing appeal number HA 2021-005-488, 430 West Welland Street, Francis Cornan. Case 25, hearing appeal number HA 2021-005423, 432 West Welland Street, Dolores Hernandez Foster. Case 26, hearing appeal number HA 2021-005342, 436 West Welland Street, Owalda Torres. Case 27, hearing appeal number HA 2021-005-424, 438 West Welland Street, Percy St. George. Case 28, hearing appeal number HA 2021-005-519, 440 West Welland Street, Segal Borenstein. Case 29, hearing appeal number HA 2022-001-401, 442 West Welland Street, Drew DeMarco. Case 30, hearing appeal number HA 2021-005517, 444 West Welland Street, Sagat Borenstein.
I believe that's Siglet.
Siglet.
yeah.
Case 31, hearing appeal number HA 2022-000465, 446 West Welland Street, Danielle Verone and Ivan Mosquera. Case 32, hearing appeal number HA 2021-005, 486, 448 West Welland Street, Yan Huang. And case 36, hearing appeal number HA 2021-005-536, 5237 North Fish Street, Raymond Tran.
Okay, thank you, sir. Who's representing the city in this matter?
Caroline Curley on behalf of
Good.
the city.
Okay, Ms. Curley, are you representing, you will be managing all of these cases in this group?
Correct.
Okay, before we get to the request for continuance, we do have a couple of matters regarding these cases to discuss. Just want to know, I'll call the address and ask if there's a owner present. Then we'll discuss the issue. The first one is 416 West Welland Street. Anchor Realty is identified as the appellant. Is anyone here for Anchor Realty? Okay, the issue there, Ms. Curley, is that legal counsel is probably going to be required, and the issue of standing, I think, needs to be resolved.
That is,
So I don't know.
I raised that issue in my continuance request, and I would agree.
Okay, thank you. Any conversation at all with the appellant regarding those
No
matters?
one reached out to me.
Okay, alrighty. The next matter is number 28, which is 440 West Welland Street, Siglet Bernstein, and it also affects number 30. And the issue there, again, is that legal representation and standing.
I agree.
Okay. So we will need to have those two matters resolved before we can hear those cases among the group. The next one is number 29. It's 442 West Welland Street, Drew DeMarco. And there's a timeliness matter that is anyone here representing Mr. DeMarco? What I want to share with you, Ms. Curley, is that we need to hear from Mr. DeMarco on the record as to why this timeliness matter exists. And we will make a decision at that time as to whether to proceed with this particular case. I will say to you and others that we will be fairly liberal in our review of the timeliness matter, given how old these cases are and the nature of the case and the complexity of the fact that we have multiple parties involved in each one. But we need to hear on the record why they weren't filed timely, and to let everyone know this is a rare exception. This is not something we will routinely do. We want to make sure that's on the record.
And just to be clear, the city never has any objection to any explanation for timeliness. That's always fine with us. You know.
Okay, thank you. Again, I previously noted that 444 West Welland Street in the appellant is Siglet Bornstein. Of course, this continues to be an issue with legal counsel. And I believe that's it. Do you have any other preliminary matters of this nature before we get to your question?
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, I think the issue is that the appeals, the ones that you have called number 21, 416 Wellens, and the ones involving Mr. Bornstein, they have individual names, but the records, as the city indicates, on record is corporate owners. And because legal owners are corporations, our policy has always been to require that corporations have legal counsel.
So noted. And as maybe I wasn't clear, that was my desire to indicate counsel would be required to represent those appellants. And then Ms. Curley, I don't know if there's any special notice required from you, given the nature of these cases, that in fact, because we don't want, if we can avoid having things continue because of a lack of counsel.
I would agree that the board should make it clear to the appellants that that is an expectation of them, but I will not be doing that.
In the correspondence, Mr. Wade, what are we including any special notice?
No.
Okay, you should take a look at these because I don't want to get to the hearing and then individuals say, I didn't realize I needed to have a lawyer, or a real estate broker show up to represent a client and not be represented by legal counsel. That just creates, we may need to go an extra step, and either directly from the board or in consultation and concert with the Ms. Curley.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone present other than the individuals I've just spoken to is affiliated with any of these properties on Welland Street or North Fifth Street? Anyone present?
I do have two additional matters just on these two.
Okay, just want to make sure there's nobody identifying themselves. If no one's present, okay, Miss Curley.
Just so the record is clear for, I believe, number 22, that's 422 West Welland, appeal number HA 21 ending in 5741. That individual, Brenda Wilkerson Monroe, that appellant rather, Ms. Wilkerson, she sold the property and did withdraw her appeal, and that was sent to board counsel, I'm sorry, the board administrator as
Okay.
withdrawn.
I know that there's an effort on it by the administrator and his staff to reissue violation notices where the property has changed hands.
Yes, I mean, we will send it to the new owner, but Ms.
Yes.
Wilkerson is no longer, that appeal number and appeal is now withdrawn.
Okay, so noted.
Yep.
Thank you.
And same thing for number 24, and that is 430 West Welland.
Okay,
21 5488. Likewise, that was sold to a new owner, and that attorney, Mr. Specht, did also email board administrators and indicate that that matter is withdrawn.
okay. All right, we'll note the record, withdrawn, new owner. Okay,
Mr. Chairperson, I
Yes, sir.
apologize for interrupting. I believe right before Ms. Curley spoke, I wasn't sure if individual identified as Awilda Torres. I apologize if I mispronounced that name. I think that this individual may have raised their hand in response to your
Oh, okay.
question.
Yes, Ms. Torres, which property, well, raise your hand so we can swear you in before we have you speak on the record. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give be the truth so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, which property are you affiliated?
436 West Wellands.
436 East Wellands?
West Wellands.
West Wellands. Oh, okay. All right. Do you understand what we are discussing at this point? What we're proposing to do?
No, I'm a little confused.
Okay. Your property among the other properties on Welland Street, we're proposing to, well, let me do this. Let me just stop for a moment. I haven't heard Ms. Curley's on the record, your proposal for how we handle things today. So let me do that, then I'll get back to you, Ms. Torres, okay?
Okay.
Ms. Curley?
I simply sent a request for a continuance or to do these preliminary issues, the exact ones the board has brought to the attention today, since there are numerous issues presented for these cases. And it does sound like the board has granted that continuance request. So these matters just need to be listed for another date.
Okay, and so the continuous matter in this issue, I think we want to do them on separate days if we could, Mr. Wade. So you had another date available in addition to that June date?
July 6th.
Ms. Curley, that's July 6th seems to make sense for you?
That's fine with us.
Okay, so we'll tentatively make it July 6th. Now, Ms. Torres, what we've just agreed to do is to continue the hearings that were scheduled for today for your case and your neighbors, because it's a large and long list of individual owners who are involved. And we'd like to, one, have everybody here at the same time. And so we can hear all the cases at once. And so the decision that's made will affect everybody the same way. So that's what we're proposing to do.
Okay.
Okay, and the tentative date we've selected is July 6th.
Okay.
Okay, and so I would encourage you and your neighbors to organize yourselves, to talk among yourselves, to try to decide how you can work together and to solicit the support of your local elected officials.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on these matters before we move on?
No, and I would just, since Ms. Torres is the only individual here, if she does want to reach out to me or the office, she absolutely can do that and we can discuss.
Okay. So these have been continued then. Thank you so much for your patience and participation.
Chairman, just to confirm, may I be excused now?
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Mhm. Ms. Curley, likewise, unless you just want to join us for the balance of our hearings today.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
That brings us to case number 2,
okay,
hearing appeal number HA 2022-005-253, 6810 Rising Sun Avenue, Smokers Zone 2 Incorporated.
okay. Who's representing this matter?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this real quick. So we're going to mark down continue until July 6th.
Yes, for that second group of cases.
Okay.
Okay, please. I'm sorry, please continue.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Bezidlo. I'm the attorney for the appellant Smoker Zone.
Okay, and who's
This is
representing the city?
Chris Johnson for the city of Philadelphia.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, good afternoon. Okay, Mr. Johnson, do you have any witnesses for today?
I do. I have Jody Wilkins from the health department.
Okay, Ms. Brazillo, do you have any witnesses?
I do. I have today with me, well, I have the business owner Sahil Ambani, as well as the manager Mike Dixon. I also have the head of the Lawncrest Civic Association, Bill Dabo.
Okay, all three of them will be called as witnesses?
At this point, I know for sure Bill Dabo will, but I would like to reserve the opportunity to call the other two as well.
Okay, so Ms. Wilkins, unmute yourself, and Mr. Dabo, if you would likewise do the same thing, and raise your right hand. I don't see Mr. Dabo on the screen.
He's with the striped background.
Oh, okay, now I see him. Okay,
Excuse me, Mr. Wade, could you change Mr. Dabo's information from Bill D to Bill Dabo, please?
and we'll have to unmute him as well.
I just wanted to add that I believe Michelle Price is also here from the city.
Okay, we will,
speak on
as she
this?
comes on, we'll get her sworn. Okay, Mr. Dabo, if you raise your right hand. And Ms. Wilkins, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
I do.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, this is how we'll proceed. But the board will introduce itself, the panel will introduce itself. Well, we've done that already. We don't have to do it again. My apologies. What we will do is Mr. Johnson will begin by presenting the city's position in its case. Mr. Brazillo, you will have opportunity to cross-examine witnesses, and after which you will present your case. And of course, Mr. Johnson will have cross opportunities. At the end of it, all the testimony, the board will confer and render its decision. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We allow Ms. Brazillo, I don't think you've been before us before, but just in general, you should know that we do allow some limited hearsay. We are not as strict as in criminal cases, but we do require the certain level of deference and respect of the panel as we move forward. And we expect, of course, all counsel to adhere themselves to the standard requirements of performance and decorum. Okay, let's move forward. Mr. Johnson.
Good afternoon, board. This is Christopher Johnson on behalf of the city of Philadelphia. Today, we're here in the appeal of the denial of the tobacco retailer permit for Smoker Zone 2 Incorporated at 6810 Rising Sun Avenue. This is a case similar to a number of other matters that have been before the board where upon receiving the renewal application back at the end of 2019 for that address for Smoker Zone 2, the department had denied the renewal pursuant to the regulations because of multiple incidents of selling tobacco to minors that occurred at that location during the prior 2 years. And once again, we're referring to in the tobacco regs, section C one of the requirements is that the person applying for the tobacco retailer permit has incurred no more than 2 violations of the provisions of section 9-622 that prohibits sales to minors of the Philadelphia Code at any one location within the 24 months preceding the application. So that's the issue before the board. And with that, I'm going to call Jody Wilkins. Has the witness been sworn?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkins, can you please tell us where you're employed?
I am Jody Wilkins. I'm a sanitarian supervisor for the City of Philadelphia Health Department.
And what are your job responsibilities?
I oversee the permitting of tobacco retailers for tobacco and e-cigarette products. So we review applications for the permit as well as oversee the program for selling tobacco and e-cigarettes to minors and those under 21.
Are you familiar with the location at 6810 Rising Sun?
Yes, I am.
Can you tell us what that business is?
Smoker Zone 2 Inc. is a business that sells tobacco products. It's basically, that's their primary business.
And did they ever hold a tobacco retailer permit?
Yes, I did.
Are you aware when?
It's been several years prior to prior to the denial of the permits, at least 3 or 4 years, probably something like that.
Now, did you receive a renewal application back in 2019?
Yes, we did.
And what happened at that point?
Once we reviewed the tickets that were against the business was denied due to selling tobacco for more than 3 times in 2 years.
At this point, I'm going to ask the board, can I share my screen?
Yes.
I have some exhibits that are marked. Can you tell us what the exhibits, the city exhibits at page 1? What's the document we're looking at, Ms. Wilkins?
That is the denial letter for Smoker Zone 2 Inc. for this the 2020 calendar year. And that basically states the violations that were made in determination of the denial.
And for what reason did the department deny the renewal?
They have sold tobacco to minors more than 3 times in 2 years.
And can you be specific? How many incidents were there?
4, that's stated on the letter. You want me to read out the dates?
Please.
February 21st, 2018, April the 6th, 2018, September 29th, 2018, and June 19, 2019.
And are these tickets that were issued to the business, are they kept by your unit as part of your regular course of business?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to scroll down to the next page. Are you familiar with this document?
Yes, it's a ticket for tobacco sales without ID.
Mr. Johnson, can you change the orientation a bit?
I'm going to rotate it clockwise.
Yes, thank you.
But if I rotate it clockwise, I got to rotate it 3 times.
Keep rotating.
Hold on. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you.
So on what date was that citation issued?
If you scroll up a little further, I can see the date. Okay, yeah, 2/21/18.
And was this violation paid?
Yes, it was.
Okay, I'm going to scroll down to what's marked as page 4. And I'll rotate it clockwise. What is this citation?
That's April the 6th, 2018.
And what was the violation here?
A tobacco sale to minor.
I'm gonna go to exhibits at page 5. What's this violation?
That is a ticket for dated 9/29/18. And if you scroll down further, I'll see what the violation is. Tobacco sale to minor.
Was this paid by the business?
Yes.
How about what's marked at page 6?
Okay, so that is June 19th, 2019. And both of those tickets, one is for the sale of tobacco without ID and the tobacco sale to a minor. That happened that day.
Or were these both paid?
Yes, they were.
All right, at this point, I'm gonna ask for admission of the city's exhibits.
So admitted.
And the city press.
Okay, any cross-examination, Ms. Zillow?
Yes, please. Ms. Wilkinson, are you aware of any violations since June 19th for Smoker Zone? For any sale of tobacco to minors or without ID?
I'm not currently aware, no.
Okay. And are you aware that, so the evidence introduced by your council, by the city's council, showed 4 violations, 3 of which were in 2018. If those sorts of violations and that number prohibited renewal of the tobacco retail permit, why were they allowed to renew in 2019 but not in 2020?
Perhaps I'm not responsible for pulling that exact data. There's someone on my team that does that. So perhaps when they reviewed it, it might not have been registered at that time for them to deny it. That's something that's beyond my purview.
Okay. I just wanted to put on the record that in fact they were renewed in 2019, but not in 20 with only 1 additional violation. All right.
Okay,
And
thank you.
yes, okay, that's it.
Anything, is there anything else?
I was just wondering if Ms. Wilkinson can, or Ms. Wilkins can explain what the standard procedure is when those individual tickets were issued, and if the business was notified upon the 3rd that they would not be able to renew their license at that time.
What happens is once my coworkers, my staff pull the number of tickets, first of all, the tickets are issued directly to the business. Our staff went out to issue it. They're notified of the violation at the time. At the bottom of the ticket is the date that we actually issued those. And so they are notified of what that there was a violation. And then once we give them their copy, we also process our copy and send it downtown. So then the disposition of the tickets are through the Office of Administrative Review. And so that is who we also confer with when we need to know how many tickets were in violation, what was the disposition, and that's how we then calculate how many are within that time frame, and then come up with a denial letter.
Okay, so and when you were going through your evidence, the last violation was issued on June 19th, or excuse me, June of 2019, but my clients were not notified until December 28th that their license would not be renewed. Is there a reason for the delay?
Well, what happens is this between June 19th.
I'm gonna object just because it calls for a little bit of a speculative answer. Like, how could we evaluate an application before its renewal time? They only evaluate the applications when they come in.
Okay, no, the objection is noted and sustained. Okay, Mr. Zillow, if you want, when you have your opportunity to present your case, you can add certain facts on the record. Okay?
Can I just rephrase my question in a way that maybe is more applicable? I understand.
Well, let's give it a shot and we'll see.
Sure. When they received that notification in June, were they notified that it would affect their license renewal for 2020?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So when they received that last violation in June of 2019, were they notified that this could possibly affect their renewal?
The person who issued the ticket does not know whether that, at that time, what their count is. That is done by administrators within the office. So we do generally, as a protocol, let them know that, and is also stated on their permit themselves about the regulation. So it is, and then also upon renewal, it is also stressed about the 3 and 2 year period. So that particular inspector may not have told them that because they wouldn't have known that per se, whether that was their 3rd or 4th or however many, that's not what their job is at that point.
Thank you. And I just wanted to apologize for the board if I'm taking some sips of water. I'm getting over a cold and I'm trying not to cough
No
on the
problem.
hearing. So just
No
wanted to,
problem. Sure.
I know that's not the most professional, but I figured it's more professional than coughing.
Coughing,
So,
yeah,
all right,
understood.
thank you. Thanks, Ms. Wilkins. That's all my questions for her.
All right.
Could I
right,
just
thank you.
I have a
brief
question,
redirect?
if possible. with
Yeah,
this.
Miss Washington. Yeah, just for a moment. Let Mr. Johnson do his redirect, then I'll bring the board in. Okay.
I just want to clarify one thing, Ms. Wilkins. When an individual has a citation issued as a result of sale to a minor, for example, you guys get a copy of the citation, is that correct?
I'm sorry, say it again.
When a citation is issued for sale to a minor to the business, the Department of Health keeps a record of that, is that right?
Yes, we have one copy and the business gets a copy.
When that comes in, do you send any notice at all to the owner of the business?
In terms of the ticket?
Yeah.
Once the ticket is sent downtown, once it's been written, I process it and I send it downtown, then downtown is the one that lets them follow up on the ticket themselves. So they would Office of Administrative Review and the code union would send.
Okay, but my question is, does the health department send them a letter or something?
Oh, do we send letters for ticketing? No. We
Okay.
just issue the tickets.
So they get the ticket, and then when it's renewal time, is that when you look for the tickets?
Yeah, we review the list of tickets against each of the businesses to see if there's 3 or more in the 2 year time period.
Okay, I have nothing further.
All right, thank you. Ms. Washington?
Yes, just real quick. Good afternoon, Ms. Wilkins. How are you doing today? My question is, I'm trying to, what is the difference between sale without ID and sale to minor? What's the difference?
Okay, so within what happens is the Health Promotion Council, who is the undercover buyers that we use as a contract agency, when they go in to attempt to buy tobacco, the clerk's job is to determine whether they should be able to give them the product. So the business or the clerk is supposed to ask for ID. So during that transaction, the tobacco sale without ID occurred apparently. But in terms of the prior ticket, the tobacco sale to minor, I'm not certain if that had occurred. I'm quite sure it may have at that time. But both tickets are considered one violation. So a tobacco sale to minor is the actual sale, whether the minor was able to get the product, and the tobacco sale without ID is because they did not know whether that person was a minor or not, or someone up now 21 now that the legal age has changed, that they would still be, it's still a part of the violations, a part of the actual transaction, but it's considered one violation.
Okay, but also, they say retailers who violate youth sale law more than twice in a 24-month period are not eligible to renew. So the sale without ID is violating the youth sale law?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to clarify. I could show the reg and what it says, and it's any violation of 9(6)22. It's not simply the minor.
Okay, so now also when you put on, Mr. Johnson, when you put on your case, you put up 2 violations for 6/19/2019. One with sales without ID and one of them with sales to minors. Is there some reason why it's not on this record? since they both was issued the same day? That was your case that you put on, the information you put on, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, is that the letter you're referencing, Mr. Washington? That Mr. That
No, when they showed a copy of the tickets.
As Ms. Wilkins explained, if they happen on the same day, it's one incident.
Okay.
So they were on the same page because they're considered one incident.
No questions, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Brazillo, and I apologize, I'm mispronouncing your name. Would you give that to me one more time, please?
You're actually saying it right. It's Bazidlo. You're correct.
Bazitlo. Okay,
Yeah.
Ms. Bazitlo. Now it's your turn, your case.
Sure. So I'm here representing Smoker Zone. Sahil Ambani is the owner of this business. And I just wanted to give a little introduction of what this business is before I go into some legal arguments, if that's okay with the board.
Okay.
This is a small business. It's been operated in this location at 6810 Rising Sun since about 2016. It is a specialty tobacco shop, which is focused on the sale of high-end cigars and not necessarily other tobacco products. There is 7 employees at this business, and I just wanted to emphasize that all taxes to both the state and the city are up to date and have been current through the current time. This is from a rejection of their application for a renewal of their tobacco license for 2020. It was originally scheduled in the beginning of 2020, got continued, and then COVID happened. And finally, they have been operating since that point under a stay of enforcement that was reached between the city solicitor at that time and the previous council, Janice Solman. So I just wanted to emphasize that they have been in business this entire time. So in total, they've been in business for over 6 years at this point. And the last violation issued to this company was in June of 2019. So it has been over 3.5 years at this point since a violation was issued. And I also wanted to state that all of the violations issued were the result of coordinated efforts between state and local compliance checks and not initiated as the result of community complaints, which I will have Bill Dabo later, or he can testify now about how this is a beneficial business to the community.
Ms. Brazil, well, actually, what we'd rather hear would be any factual witnesses you have, fact witnesses you have as to the violations, etc. It's
Sure.
okay for the community to be supportive. That's understood, and you can certainly do that. But we want to hear the fact witnesses first, because that was what this whole thing swings on, whether or not the facts are accurate or not.
Sure. And I think we all agree here that in fact, these violations were issued. I do have a legal argument about why these shouldn't prevent the renewal of this license, though.
Okay.
I would like
Well,
to present that.
Okay, well, let's do this then. I respect the presence of the community leaders. So certainly if you can have a short presentation, a few questions, and if there's any cross, Mr. Johnson, you of course will do that. But keep in mind that the decisions we make today will really be based on the facts.
Absolutely. His testimony will support some of my legal arguments, so that's why I want him to testify.
Okay.
Mr. Dalbo, can you you unmuted yourself. Can you just put your name on the record?
Yes, I want to correct that anyway. My name is Bill Dabo, D-O-L-B-O-W. And I'm
Great.
president of Longcrest Community Association for over 20 years, and also a Democratic ward leader for over 20 years in the neighborhood.
And you are familiar with this business?
Absolutely.
All right. And have you received any complaints from neighbors or the rest of the community about this business in any fashion?
None.
All right. And do you believe it to be create any sort of danger to the community, especially the children in the community?
No.
All right. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I just want to add that when the city was putting it on, they said it was a tobacco. They do sell tobacco, but a lot of it's cigar sales. And the big thing is, since being president and everything, for over 20 years, a lot of businesses have left our neighborhood. This place, people go there, they sit and they smoke their cigars, they order food from all the businesses. It's the first place that I've noticed that people are coming back to our neighborhood instead of leaving to buy stuff there. It's amazing on how much the neighborhood's grown in that area because of that place. The pizza places, the diners, everything.
Great. I appreciate that. That's all I wanted to have Mr. Bill put on the record.
I just want to
Thank you.
note that.
Oh, wait,
we-
Mr. Dalbo. No. You can't make any general
No
statements.
problem.
Your witness, you have to be called by your attorney and answer when only what's asked.
Thank
Mr.
you, sir.
Johnson has opportunity for cross-examination. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you.
No cross.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank
Any
you.
additional witnesses, ma'am?
We also have Michelle Price from the Commerce Department. If we can put her on, and then I will give my legal argument.
Michelle Price, okay, already. Ms. Price, I don't think you've been sworn, so if you raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Can you just tell us what your occupation is?
I am the Senior Director for the Office of Business Services. At the time when I met the business, I was a Business Services Manager for the area.
All right, and do you find this business to be complementary to the community?
Yes, I do.
And do you think that it in any way endangers public safety, including the safety of children?
No, I don't.
And can you maybe just put on the record why you think this is a beneficial business?
As Mr. Dalbo said, when I am out on my routes, actually I feel safer when they are occupied, because I've noticed a lot of first responders are they are patronizing this business. So when I'm on my routes, they look out for me. And it hasn't been a problem. Mr. Sahil, he has worked with me. He wants to be compliant. And it's not a business that I have to chase down to try to help to become compliant. Like, he is working with me. He is part of the community. He volunteers if we need businesses to talk to other businesses. So he has been a good business owner.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Johnson, any cross-examination?
No cross.
I do have a question to Ms. Price. Ms. Price, are you familiar with the business operations at all in terms of how they conducted their sales?
When from just going in and observing, I actually live in the neighborhood also. It seems to be more of a cigar lounge, like where they're just smoking cigars. I haven't seen cigarette sales, and I've been in there quite a few times just when I'm out on my route, but I haven't witnessed cigarette sales.
So you haven't witnessed any underage persons purchasing cigarette products there?
No, it's all like older men mostly, and women.
Okay, so it would be unusual for a young person to visit the establishment.
Yes.
So it should be fairly apparent if someone is underage.
In my opinion, yes, because it's mostly for older folks.
Okay, all right. And you would generally agree that it's not a good health policy for young people to purchase and use tobacco products?
I totally agree. I don't smoke, never did, and don't think they do. It's just smoke.
All right. Thank you very much.
I have a question, Mr. Chair, for Ms.
yes.
Price. Is this establishment, to your knowledge, also some sort of an event or assembly space at any given point in time?
I haven't rode by and seen any events. It's usually just men sitting around. I guess they watch a game or something. I don't know. But I usually don't go in like at night. But it's like I guess like a watering hole or something where they're just sitting there smoking cigars. I'm not a cigar person, so I wouldn't go inside at night, but I haven't witnessed like an event space or anything like that.
Thank you. If I could direct that question to the attorney, and please help me with the pronunciation one more time, Ms. Bazzillo.
Bazzillo, it's 3 syllables and
Bazzillo.
Y
There
sounds
I
like
go.
an I.
Thank you, Bazzillo. Can you
Sure,
answer that question for me?
I've actually represented this business before in zoning matters, and they have a zoning permit for assembly for a smoking lounge. But it's not like a nightclub type assembly. It's a smoking lounge.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional witnesses, Ms. Zitlow?
No, unless you would like me to have Sahil walk you through their efforts to, I can do it, or I can have my client walk through what they've done since 2018 to rectify any issues.
Only to the degree that you feel it's important to have his testimony as a fact witness. The
Sure.
two key issues is, did the sales occur, and did they pay the fines, or did they appeal the fines?
Sure. Sahil, can I have you unmute yourself and put your name on the record and get sworn in?
Yep.
Okay, raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
I do.
All right, thank you. Put your hand down. Ms. Zitlow, please.
Sure. Sahil, you're the owner of this business, correct?
That's correct.
And you did receive all of the violations that the city put forward as evidence, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you paid the violations.
Yes, we did.
But you took did you take these violations seriously? Did you take any actions either with your staff or with your the running of your business? Like, did you counsel employees? Did you hire, did you implement any training programs? Let's just start with how you handled the staff that had that caused these violations.
Yeah, sure. So I believe that some of the staff that that got the violations, I believe, I don't remember, at this point, but I remember, I think either 2 or 3 of the violations, the people who sort of caused the violation, for lack of a word, the staff that was there, were actually let go from the business due to the violations, because obviously we do try to make sure that the staff that comes in is aware that obviously that the sale of tobacco to minors is not allowed. The other thing that we did was to put in a point of sale system where we could verify people's IDs, so we could run the ID through the system itself. The issue that we had with that system was that for some reason it was not reading. It's a national company, but for some reason it was not accurately reading the PA state, like all PA state licenses. It was only reading, I believe it was either the older ones or the newer ones. I don't remember which one. So I think that was something that we were basically trying to force manual checks on. And then we also implemented a system by a company called WeCard, which works similarly to the city and state governments, where they'll have sort of random agents essentially stop by and figure out what if those sales are still occurring. So that's something that we had spent money on to try and make sure that we were in compliance.
Great. If I can share my screen, I have the report from the last month and a half showing that all of the checks have been compliant.
And the
I
author
would
of this
object.
report?
I'm just going to object to the relevance. I don't have any problem stipulating that there may not have been any violations in the last month and a half, but I don't think it's relevant to the reason for the denial.
So noted and sustained in this instance, Mr. Pizzillo. There's no need to show those, but I do have a couple questions for Mr. Ambani when you finish with him.
Great. I just wanted to give me 1 second. So these procedures that you're talking about are still in place today, and you are still training your staff through WeCard and everything else about carding, proper carding and proper sale to avoid sales to minors, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. No further questions.
Any cross, Mr. Johnson?
No.
Okay. I do have a few questions. Other board members may as well. Mr. Ambani, how long have you been in business in tobacco sales in Philadelphia?
since starting this business in the city. So
This is
2016.
2016. Do you own any other tobacco sales locations in the city?
No.
Okay, this is the only one.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you have any other tobacco sales experience in other cities in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, so we are also tobacco distributors. We used to have that business in the city of Philadelphia, and then that was relocated outside the city.
And what does a tobacco distributor do?
We sell to other retailer stores, and we sell to other wholesalers and other companies, basically. So other businesses.
Okay, in Philadelphia as well as throughout the state?
Yes, sir, and throughout the country.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Now, the violations that you received, the tickets for, it was noted that at least 2, maybe more cases, you paid those violations, correct? You paid those tickets.
Yes, sir, we did.
Is there any reason why you did not appeal those at the time?
The reason was, we weren't, basically, I guess we weren't denying that the sale had occurred. We were basically trying to make sure that those situations would not occur again. I guess, we were never really informed of the sort of, I guess, the full repercussions of the violations. And so, our thought process was that, we should try and address the situation and do whatever we can on our end to make sure that that those don't occur again. Obviously the fact that, we have to run the store with, 7 or more employees makes it difficult to try and, make sure that, again, like hypothetically, if I were running the store, then, I could make sure that, hey, I know the seriousness of this law, and I can make sure that every single person that, walks through the door is basically carded, regardless if, they're 60 years old. But obviously with staff, we try and make sure as much as possible that we try and educate them, we try and work with them and train them. And we, when that failed, we started implementing, basically more expensive systems, including the point of sale system, as well as the WeCard program, to try and make sure that, again, we can try and prevent it as try and prevent the situation from reoccurring as much as possible.
Now, I believe on your license, but particularly on correspondence and the rules and regs that you were given when you opened, it's noted that violations could result in non-renewal of your license, correct? You were aware of that?
I honestly, I was not aware of that fully. So I think when the violations had occurred, I believe that the fines were probably paid. I don't remember, again, it's been a while, but I believe that the fines were paid, and our thought process was, again, to try and correct the situation, as much as possible. Yeah.
Are you directly involved in the operation of the store, or are you the executive who sort of oversees the whole corporate activity?
Yeah, more the executive rather than directly involved on the day-to-day basis.
Okay, so your line managers, they understand the impact of this compliance issue? The sort of the store person who manages the store.
Yeah, so the person that manages the store, we did have someone else at the time that was managing the store. Currently, the manager is Mike, who is present here, and obviously Mike does understand the severity of it. I believe the person present at the time, again, I can't speak to them or speak to whether or not they fully understood the severity of everything, but obviously I tried to make it as clear as possible that the store or the location would have to essentially be closed, or could potentially be closed.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Yes,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I do. Excuse me, Mr. Pickens. Mr. Bonnie, how long have you had a tobacco license?
Since 2016.
So how many years? That's
Um,
about 8 years, 7, 8 years.
yeah.
Okay. And how long have you had the existing point of sale device in place?
I believe that was implemented in 2019.
And these violations you recently acquired after 2019?
No.
The violations were, I believe, previous to the system.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
just want to clarify something.
Yes.
The violations were, the last one was in June of 2019. And we are talking about the renewal of a 2020 tobacco permit. They have been able to renew their state license during this time.
Yes.
But have just been operating under a stay of enforcement since 2020.
Yeah, that's on the record already. Yes, that's
Okay.
on the
Just
record.
wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, Mr. Pincus.
I guess I've heard the testimony from the community association leader, and I've heard your testimony, and you sound like a responsible person. However, I'm a little troubled when you said you tried to deal with the situation, because the letter denying your permit cites 4 different dates for violations, starting in February of 2018, then April of 2018, then September of 2018, and then again June of 2019. So it took you a year and a half to find, I guess, the responsible way of dealing with this, as opposed to if you said, well, we were cited 3 times in the course of 6 weeks, and then it hasn't happened again because we instituted all these systems, I'd be inclined to be more sympathetic. But it took you over a year and a half to figure out that you needed to do something.
Yeah, so I guess I can try and explain that as well. So basically, you know, when we received the first violation, our response was that, you know, whoever the clerk or the employee at the time was would have to pay the violation. We thought that would be enough of a deterrent for employees to, you know, to continue asking for ID. You know, so that we made that perfectly clear at that time. For the second violation, you know, for I believe the second and the third violation, both of those people were let go. Again, we had thought that would be enough of a deterrent or incentive, you know, whichever way you want to look at it, for, you know, staff to, again, do the whatever was legally required to, you know, ask for ID as required. So, you know, that's basically the reason that, you know, we hadn't implemented the system, because again, it, you know, in 2018 as a relatively new business, you know, we were trying to avoid the, you know, additional expense of, you know, putting in an entirely new point of sale system.
Okay, Mr. Ambani, when these violations occurred, were you notified immediately?
I was not. I believe I was not notified immediately. I believe I was notified maybe a week or so after the fact.
Were you notified of the payment of the fines? Is that a
Yes.
decision you made is that a decision you made, or was just made on your behalf by someone in your company?
That was a decision that, you know, I was a part of. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Johnson, anything cross, anything?
No cross. I would have argument
Okay.
at the end.
Okay. Well,
I would just like to have some follow-up questions for Mr.
Sure.
Abani.
okay.
I just wanted to, you were able to, despite the 3 violations you received in 2018, you were able to renew your tobacco retailer permit for 2019, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. Well, I think we're at the point now. I'd like to hear closing arguments. Ms.
I-
Basilio?
I did want to I had a legal argument about the interpretation of the code, if possible, if I could present my case on that.
Okay, do that as part of your closing?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Johnson, of course, you'll respond afterwards.
Great. So as we've discussed, Smoker Zone timely filed their renewal of their Philadelphia tobacco license for 2020. And then on December 28th of 2019, received a denial of this renewal. It was based on, as we discussed previously, that retailers who violate used sales law more than twice in 24-month period are not eligible to renew. They were advised at that time that perhaps they could just file for a new retailer permit. However, this business was grandfathered in prior to the prohibition of tobacco stores closer than 500 feet to a school. They are closer than 500 feet to a small private school. So they would not be able to ever renew this license if they lost their grandfathered status. As such, denial of this renewal would result in both an unequal enforcement, since they were allowed to renew in 2019, but not in 2020. And I think that this is based on a misinterpretation of the city code, and perhaps an overreach of that code in their enforcement by the city health department, resulting in an unlawful taking of this business. There's a couple of applicable statutes here that I believe Mr. Johnson referenced. Section City Code 9622, which is cigarette and tobacco product regulations. These regulate including sales to minors. There are specific penalties outlined in this regulation. It's in section 9622E. And it says here, upon finding of a third cigarette sales violation or a combination of 3 or more violations of the section committed in a single location within a single business establishment, we go to point 2, violations incurred within 2-year period. The person shall also be subject, depending on the severity of the violations, to an order of the department to either cease cigarette sales of tobacco or cease operations. Such order shall be for the period not less than 48 hours and not to exceed 1 year based on the department's discretion. It does not talk about a penalty of not being able to renew their license or in any way revoking that license. In fact, the only penalty that involves a revocation of license in this statute is under section F, which only applies to violations of 96225, and we're talking about violations of 96221. I understand that there is an ordinance of the health department, which was the regulations really relating to tobacco retailing, issued in December 8th, 2016. And under section 2C is where we get to the point where it says that the person applying for tobacco retailer permit has incurred no more than 2 violations of the provisions of 9622 at any one location for the purpose. Okay, so yeah, so it says that you can't have more than 2 violations in 24 months. But on the beginning of this regulation, on the whereas clause, it says whereas section 96312C7 of the Philadelphia Code empowers the Board of Health to adopt any requirements for the issuance and renewal of tobacco retailer permits that is appropriate for the protection of health. However, when we go to that section in 9631, it's under a subcategory that says a tobacco retailer permit shall be issued to an applicant if, in addition to any other applicable requirements, all the following requirements are followed. And under 7, it says any other requirement adopted by the Board of Health, which the board deems appropriate for the protection of health. This is a regulation cited for the issuance of a permit, not a renewal of the permit. And so it is our argument that this ordinance does not affect renewal and only affects the issuance. And since we were renewing, that we have to go back to the standard of penalty in 9622, which is this cease operation for a period of time, not a revocation of the permit, and that should be based on the severity of the offense, which is why it was relevant for the testimony of the community about the impact that these violations have had, which is and the extent of these violations and the lack of continuance of the violations and the correction of the situation that caused the violations and the intent to no longer violate creates a lack of severity that would justify a significant punishment beyond paying these fines for these violations. And furthermore, as this is a tobacco retail store, it's their only business. It's not a gas station that incidentally sells tobacco or anything like that. This enforcement of these regulations and this irregular enforcement, where sometimes they can renew, sometimes they can't, based on similar circumstances, creates an unlawful taking of their business. A government license is a property right established by several cases under Pennsylvania law. Jimmy's Germantown Place versus City of Philadelphia is one of them. And a municipality cannot seize a property right for public use without just compensation. Regulations that take away all economic viability of a business, such as this would do, creates an unlawful taking. And here we don't have any sort of nuisance that's created by this business. It's not having a negative impact on the community that would somehow negate that taking. I also would add that for this particular store, I do understand that the health department has a legislative goal of reducing tobacco access for minors, reducing smoking addiction. It is a noble goal that I don't think anyone on this call, I don't want to speak for everyone, but me personally, and I believe my clients agree with. It's a noble goal. However, revoking this business's permit does not further that goal. We have a specialty tobacco store that caters to an adult, sophisticated audience with their high-end tobacco products, namely cigars. Closing this business wouldn't have any effect on children's access to tobacco, as this is not something that, teenagers are regularly coming in and trying to buy cigarettes. I don't think most teenagers, again, my opinion, but are buying expensive cigars to enjoy with their friends. And also it's of note that in this shopping center, there is also a Wawa that sells cigarettes. So even if we want to just look at the goal of, in this immediate area with this school, reducing access to tobacco for minors, closing this business doesn't accomplish that goal, as Wawa is still selling cigarettes less than 100 feet away from this business. And so I just ask in closing that you consider that this is a valuable business to the community in terms of both revenue, jobs, and a gathering place for the community, that my clients have taken significant steps to prevent any future problems from occurring. And that in no way are they currently endangering the public health, including the health of children. And with that, that's the conclusion of my argument.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Would I be able to say
No,
anything?
sir.
by
No,
chance?
sir. No, sir.
Okay.
No,
So
sir.
the city's position here is that any finding in this case other than a city affirm would be an abuse of discretion by the board, because the law in this area is clear. The Department of Health was authorized by City Council to pass additional requirements for issuing and renewing tobacco retailer permits. As we've heard numerous times, in the regs, it requires that an applicant for renewal or issuance of a permit have no violations of 9-622 within the prior 24 months. And unfortunately, we have a case where the retailer had more than 3 incidents within the last 24 months. And, you know, it may have taken the department an additional year to find out about them. But the fact of the matter is, once they had that information, they had no discretion to ignore the reg and ignore the Philadelphia code and issue the permit. So I don't think that the situation has significantly changed other than what the bare facts are. There were 4 incidents. And I can point out in the code, if I can share my screen. Exactly what we're talking about. So if we go to section 9-631, where it talks about tobacco retailer permit, a tobacco retailer shall be issued to an applicant if, in addition to other applicable requirements, right? And that's what we're talking about here, other applicable requirements. It also talks about the board adopting other requirements by the Board of Health to promote the public health. And that's exactly what these regulations are. So I do appreciate the arguments that were very well made by council, but unfortunately, the city's position is that the board's hands are tied. The facts are what they are. And since there were 4 incidents, the department had no discretion at all to issue the permit.
Okay, what we will do, the board will take a moment to confer. We will go off. Thank you very much. It is now 3:20. The board has reconvened. And now back on the record, we will call the vote in a moment. I must say that Ms. Bizzildo, we were impressed with your arguments. You represent your client well. The board had spirited debate on various aspects of the code. We don't take these decisions lightly. We know the impact that it has on both the owner and the operator, as well as the community and the people whose voices are not here. We represent those persons. Those are the folks who are suffering illness and who are impacted by products, legitimate or otherwise. But in fact, their voices are important as well. So in this instance, we will call the vote. We've heard the arguments from the city as well as the appellant, all of which were very strong. And so we will now call the vote on HA-2022-005-253 6810 Rising Sun Avenue, Smokers Zone 2, Inc., City of Fern.
I also vote City of Fern, but I want to compliment Ms. Bizzildo, if I'm saying it correctly, for your argument and presentation of your case. It wasn't because of any lack of effort on your part to make a good argument. And obviously the fact that we spent a considerable amount of time discussing the matter, I think is a reflection of the efforts you put into this matter. But I'm voting City of Fern.
Ms. Bizzillo, piggyback off of Mr. Pincus, you made a strong point. You brought some items to our attention and a vision that we've never looked at it before, and we thank you for that. But I'm gonna have to vote City of Fern also.
I agree with all of my colleagues that you put on a fantastic case, but I have to vote City of Fern.
City of Fern. The majority vote is City of Fern. Thank you all for your participation. And as you're aware, Ms. Bizzillo, you may appeal our decision. And should you do that, if you, certainly you don't need assistance from anyone, but if you, the L&I Administrative Board would be happy to provide you whatever information you need. Thank you so much for your participation and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, I think Mr. Wade, do we have any further matters to resolve?
No.
Okay, that represents our calendar for today. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Please have a good
Wait, I do
afternoon.
have a question.